morning, church. Our scripture reading this morning is found in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 to 10. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 6 to 10. But true faith with peace of mind is of great profit. For we came into the world with nothing, and we are not able to take anything out. But if we have food and roof over us, let that be enough. But those who have desire for wealth are falling into danger and are taken as in net by a number of foolish and damaging desires, through which men are overtaken by death and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all evil, and some whose hearts were fixed on it have been turned away from the faith and been wounded with unnumbered sorrows. May God bless these verses. Thank you.
Well, it's great to be back. It's nice to be able to come and worship here today. And I don't think I've preached since for a year or so. So I've had quite a busy year, going here, there and everywhere with family and all sorts of things. Today I want to reflect a little bit on where true happiness is found. And I suppose just reminded me that last year I needed a bit of a break from the routine of all day life. And so I thought I'd have a bit of retail therapy. So you see, I went to my favourite sports store, Paddy Palin, and I tried on this vest. And it was a Rab vest. And I looked on the price tag and it was $300. But was on sale, it was only $50. And I thought, whoa, what a bargain. And of course I can justify it because it's a bit longer than normal and I need a longer vest, you see. I didn't try and think about the fact I already have 3 vests at home, but that's beside the point. And that sale assistant said, that looks really good on you. In fact, when I came back 2 weeks later into the store, I had it on, and the sale assistant said again, oh, that looks good on you. It's a good sale assistance, you can see. But you see, the problem was in winter, I'm getting a little bit older, and I found that, it's a really warm vest, but being older, my arms get cold. So I went back to Paddy Palin sometime, and what should be there is a down jacket. And it was also some name brand, a HH or something, Helly something or other. And it also was $300 or thereabouts and only $50 or $60. And so I bought it. And I got all the buzz of buying it. And then I was wearing it and enjoying it. And I was out walking and it started raining. And have a guess what feather down jackets are not particularly good in? Rain. So I got home and it was all lumpy. And I thought, rats, I've got to go back to Paddy Palin's again, but I don't know what I'll get this time. It's sort of like that's the sort of ups and downs that happen with retail therapy, isn't it? You get a buzz. In fact, they tell us that, there's all sorts of things happen. Dopamine, endorphins, serotonin all kick in when you find a bargain. And then I thought about my time with the family. Actually, I didn't bring my clicker out. Can one of the kids bring there's a clicker there. Thank you. Grandkids are handy sometimes. But yes, let me see if it works here. Oops, what's going on? Did I turn the wrong thing on? That's it. Keep trying. Okay. Did I just see if I can. Okay. So over the year end, we had family time together, and there we are all as the family. There's just one or two missing. Had all sorts of different things, played croquet on the lawn, went down to the beach, all those sorts of things, plus the long drive there and back. And I suppose when I analyse the feeling that you have when you're with your family, it's sort of like a nice warm feeling, isn't it? Not that buzz of buying a bargain. And then down the end of the road, a number of years ago, remember Clive used to be here? He had cancer, and he met at a cancer group, a lady who's down the end of the street, who was a teacher who had just retired, and she'd got an aggressive cancer. Luke had helped Clive out at times, and Clive talked to Luke, and they went and chatted to the lady and helped out a little bit, and then told me, and I went and talked to them and had prayer with them. They weren't Christian, I don't think, but they're appreciative. The woman died, and the guy's really struggling. He's obviously depressed, struggles to mow his lawn. In fact, he doesn't. And so every now and then, when the nature strip and that down where he is overgrown, I get my lawn mower and I go down and I mow his lawn. And I suppose after I mow his lawn, I try to analyse the feeling I get. I suppose the feeling I get is I feel good. It's not a big buzz. There's not some sort of, wow, you know. And I thought a lot about this issue of, you know, the shopping buzz. In fact, I got AI and Google to help me with this. And it tells us that when you go shopping, there's a dopamine kicks in. It feels good, gives you pleasure. The anticipating a good deal can trigger a surge, makes the experience rewarding, encourages you to seek out more bargains. Endorphins, natural painkiller, contribute to the feeling of accomplishment when a bargain is secure. Serotonin boosts your happiness, feel content with your purpose. Adrenaline, the excitement and urgency, limited time offers and sales events. You know, buy it now or you're going to miss out. Cause a rush of adrenaline, increases heart rate and energy, and pushes you to make an immediate purchase. Okay, what did they say about the issue of kindness? It's interesting, there's actually now the science of kindness that's up there. The acts of kindness can release hormones that contribute to your mood and overall well-being. The practice is so effective, it's being formally incorporated in some types of psychotherapy. We all seek a path to happiness. Practicing kindness towards others is one we know works well. The science of kindness. It's interesting, there was the three hormones, were the same in the science of kindness. When you do kind things, you get dopamine, pleasure centre, endorphins, releases, counteracts stress, And serotonin boosts mood, feelings of happiness. That's when you're kind. This is what happens. But there was two that were different. Science, there was a plus. How do you say that? That's it. This is highly released when showing kindness, promoting trust, social bonding and empathy. It also acts as a cardioprotective hormone, helping to lower blood pressure, also reduces inflammation in the body and strengthens the immune system. And interestingly, when you're acting kindly, there's no adrenaline. And of course, if you get adrenaline, that's the fight and flight thing, and shopping, there's not too much fight and flight, hopefully, and if you don't churn it up with good exercise afterwards, it can lead to stress feelings and headaches. So it's interesting, this concept of kindness. Interesting what the Bible says about it too. Where's true happiness found? And we had that in our scripture reading. A devoted life brings wealth, but it's the rich simplicity of being yourself. Wow, yourself before God. That's an incredible ability to have a strong sense of who you are, a rich simplicity of being yourself and being comfortable, isn't it? Yep, but if it's only money people are after, they'll self-destruct in no time. The lust of money brings trouble and nothing but trouble. And a lot have gone down that path. Some lose their footing in the faith completely, live to regret it bitterly afterwards. But a God follower must avoid these things, striving after a godly life, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. I suppose in putting it in simple terms, to be happy in life, put time and effort into relationships, not money. It's been a very interesting study. In fact, it's a groundbreaking study that the happiness study, when they put what makes a good life, lessons from the longest study on happiness, it's a TED talk, had 475 million views. So it's a pretty influential. It was the Harvard study of students and family over 80 years. That's an awful long time for a scientific study to go on. Initially started with 280 Harvard students and 456 young men from disadvantaged neighbourhoods. And over the 85, it's almost 85 years now actually, it's expanded to their wives, their families, and been multi-generation, studying the long-term physical, mental health and relationships, what makes a good life. So what do you think are the 3 key ingredients to making a good life? Well, in the TED study, this is what he said. When the study began, nobody cared about empathy. But the key to a good life is what? Relationships. That's the TED Talk, the summary in his TED Talk. It's very, very interesting. They said yes. The good relationships keep us happier, healthier, give us longer, live longer. More than money, fame and career. J.F. Kennedy was one of the... So there's a lot of famous people from wealthy backgrounds that were in the Harvard study. And so strong positive social connections act as a buffer against life stresses, delay physical and mental decline, and are the best predicator of well-being, highlighting social fitness as critical for good life. It's a fascinating thing when we have such an in-depth study, 85 years, it's one of the most remarkable studies of life and wellness, and that's its results. That's what Jesus said, isn't it? The key to a good life is loving God and yourself, and your neighbour as yourself. But unfortunately, when you go round and ask people what's the way to happiness, typically they'll say what? Money. One of my grandkids was telling us about a YouTuber. There's so much stuff on YouTube, isn't there? And this person goes around different countries asking on the street, what's the basis of happiness of money, of happiness? And they're saying again and again, money or aspects of it. And I suppose this is a real challenge, isn't it, to think. Putting time and effort into relationships with God. I discovered this vest is a bit warm up here too. I suppose, what is real precious jewels? Remember going to Lightning Ridge. Lightning Ridge, I was sent out there as the pastor, young pastor. Lightning Ridge is about as far from the coast as it can possibly be. I think they sent me there because my supervisor in my first 2 years seemed to think that I surfed a bit too much and didn't dress up. I dressed like a surfer when I went down the street. So that was back in the 70s. You were supposed to, look like a pastor, but I didn't. So they sent me as far as they possibly could from the surf out to Lightning Ridge. And that was an incredible collection of people out at Lightning Ridge. Lightning Ridge is where they find black opal. That's where you get that opalised colour, but it's called black opal because the actual backing, the natural backing, is black, the potch they call it. And it makes beautiful stone, but it's the closest thing to gambling that I know of, because I know of some of the people out there that had driven and had mined, and it mostly was hand mining for years and hadn't found anything. And yet others that had just got an old mine, gone 1 metre along, and sometimes there can be, just in an area this size, $2 or $3 million worth of black opal. It was rough and tough. There was a policeman, Adventist policeman out there in the area, and he told me that there'd been a murder, not in Lightning Ridge, but just down the road about a year before, and so they'd sent a squad of police out, and they didn't find the murderer, but they found 23 other people that were on the wanted list out in Lightning Ridge. So it's a bit of a rough town. In fact, when we were there, one of the local eateries at pubs, I think it was, the pub where you eat, a guy had come in with a gun and tried to hold it up, and as he'd gone around to the till, one of the barmaids had attacked him and taken the gun off him, and then he'd gone off to court, and his defence was, oh, well, this is just Lightning Ridge. We're a bit rough and tumble, and I was a bit drunk out there, and he got himself off. But out there I met a guy named Mansell James. Mansell James, there's one of the black opals. I knew one of the Adventists was a black opal dealer, and after he learnt to trust me, he used to show me some of the black opal that had come in. I've decided it's my favourite jewel. It's absolutely incredible. But Mansell James, he grew up in one of Brisbane's top grammar schools. The sort that the parents pay $40,000 a year for them to go along to. He was flying his dad's plane at 15. You can fly a plane at 15. You can actually get a pilot's licence at 16, but you can't drive a car till you're 18. That's a bit weird, isn't it? At 22, he was a young executive in one of his dad's companies, and in today's terms, probably on a wage of $400,000, he had everything. But I suppose he saw, and all those around him, that reality of a rich man's life so often. But it's only money people are after. They'll self-destruct in no time. Lust for money can bring trouble and nothing but trouble. Never quite worked out what happened in his family and his business, but Mansell threw it all in. He went bush. In fact, he went up to the Northern Territory with a mate and an old Land Rover crocodile shooting for skins. That was a very wild place, a wild life. I met him at Lightning Ridge. As I said, Lightning Ridge was a tough scene. Lots of people were out there escaping for all sorts of different reasons, hoping to make it rich. I can remember they asked me to run a community day for the children. Forgotten whether it was Australia Day or whatever, and we organised games down on the local oval. Unfortunately, the oval was just dirt, but there was some green, which is three-corner jacks. I don't know if you ever run into three-corner jacks. They're the little bindi that has, it's actually four, isn't it? It's got three, and they have one that sticks up, and they get in your foot, and man, oh man, they've got a poison in them. But most of the kids that came along to those games were barefoot. They didn't have shoes, and they ran around over those three-corner jacks. I don't know, tough. Yes. It was a tough scene out there in many, many different ways. The local toilets were often just put over a borehole, sometimes 60 to 80 foot down, so you didn't want to drop anything in the toilet or you never get it back. When the church, I was told by one of the pastors from about 20 years before, when they first built the church, got permission to build the church, the tough old lady across the street objected to the church being there. So her form of protest was she had an outside toilet and she took off the door, and then she would sit on it and look across at the members before and after church. That was her form of protest. So, and the person beside the church was Aboriginal, and they used to do their chanting when the church was on as well. So it was quite a different sort of a scene. Mansell James, to give a context, I told the same pastor that had been there right near the start, and I told him, I met him in New Zealand 10 years after I'd been at Lightning Ridge, and he said, "What? You baptised Mansell James? Not Mansell James?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Wow." He was one of the wildest, toughest. In fact, there was a rumour around, and of course Lightning Ridge is just built on rumour. There's rumour about everything. Rumour that this person has found $1 million and this person and whatever. But one of the worst things out there is what they call ratters. People that when they hear someone is onto opal, will actually go down their mines at night, and it's fairly obvious where they've been digging, and sometimes, as I say, there can be $2 million in just a short area, and they'll dig and they only need a bucket or two and often take some, the thing out. And so the miners and the worst person is a ratter. And the rumour was, according to this pastor, that Mansell James was so tough that he'd gone out and he'd put a sign up. He'd thought there were ratters and he was sure there were people down, and he'd put a sign up warning them. And then he'd gone back one night, seen that there was a light down the hole, shouted, there was nothing. The light had gone out, and so he'd come back and he'd dropped a stick of gelignite down. That was the rumour. Who knows what was the truth, but everyone was willing to believe that Mansell could have been that sort of a guy. And yet, what I knew about Mansell, as he was tough, for a fun, they'd go shooting wild boar with a .22 rifle. Now, wild boar can make a real mess of you when they get angry, and shooting them, the ear and underneath the leg is about the only place a .22 rifle will make any difference. Yeah, Mansell was tough, and yet I can remember when I was there, he had started coming to church, and he would bring along with him a old Falcon station wagon jam full of dirty, smelly, feral kids. I don't know how many he would put in that wagon. It seemed like it was 10 or 12 from what I remember. No seat belts and all that sort of stuff in those days. And those kids came from homes where they didn't get any feed. It was hard to get water. You had water in a water tank, so parents didn't waste money on washing kids. And so we would have quite an interesting situation in church. And what they had done is they had headphones for the children, and they'd have a story going while the sermon was on. And Mansell had told them that if they were quiet and listened to the story in church, then they'd get a feed afterwards. And so they'd come along and they'd sit there and they'd fidget, but they'd have the headphones on. But if you were the preacher, you knew as soon as the story finished, you had to stop speaking as well. Because for them, they had listened to their story, it was now time for a feed. Yep, he had a huge smile, and he was someone who would help out anyone. He was a auto mechanic, electrical mechanic, auto electric mechanic. And he always had people's old cars, because you can imagine out there so many people, had old bombs, couldn't afford, hard luck stories. But he was always there. And I suppose while I saw some very impressive opals worth, in today's terms, hundreds of thousands of dollars actually, I can remember the most precious jewel I witnessed is when Mansell had a mate named Vic. Vic was a big, strong, incredibly tough guy from Mansell's past, but unfortunately he was an alcoholic that would dry out and then he'd go on benders. And I remember I was out at Mansell's once, and he said, I've got to go, Vic's crook, and he's on a bender, I've got to go and clean his place. And I said, I'll come along, Mansell said, no, you don't want to come along. It's, but of course I was a pastor, and, I was out doing good, and Mansell was doing good, helping this guy, and finally, he saw he couldn't talk me out of it, and I went along, and Vic's place was a corrugated shed about the size of your average garden shed. Just long enough to put a bed and then have some sort of a sinking thing on the other side and a bit of a cupboard. And in my innocent life, I'd never been near a drunk at the end of a bender filth, unimaginable condition that he was in. I went inside that after Mansell. I just went back outside. The smell, just everything was just totally more than I could handle. But Mansell was there, and he cleaned up his mate, he cleaned up his room, he cleaned up. And I just remember, I just couldn't believe that someone would do that, and someone that's such a tough guy helping out. And Mansell put a lot of effort into relationships and not money. And he enjoyed life, and he made a huge difference to those around him. I suppose in Matthew 25:31-40, Jesus says, "Then those who are right with God will say, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? When did we see you thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and give you room? When did we see you having no clothes and gave you clothes? When did we see you sick or in prison and help you?' Then the king will say, 'Surely I tell you, because you did it to one of least of these, my brethren, you have done it to me.'" A devoted life brings wealth, but it's the richness of the simplicity of being yourself before God. I love this quote. What you do for yourself dies with you. What you do for others lives on. May God bless you as you make your journey of happiness by focusing on the relationships and making a difference for those around you.
Please stand for our closing hymn, "This Love That Makes Us Happy."
Tis love that makes us happy, tis love that smooths the way. It helps us mind, it makes us kind to others every day. God is love, we're His little children. God is love, we would be like Him. 'Tis love that makes us happy, 'tis love that smooths the way. It helps us mind, it makes us kind to others every day. This world is full of sorrow, of sickness, death, and sin. With loving heart we'll do our part and try some soul to win. God is love, we're His little children. God is love, we will be like Him. 'Tis love that makes us happy, 'tis love that smooths the way. It helps us mind, it makes us kind to others every day. And when this life is over and we are called above, our song shall be eternally of Jesus and His love. God is love, we're His little children. God is love, we would be like Him. 'Tis love that makes us happy, 'tis love that smooths the way. It helps us mind, it makes us kind to others every day.
We thank you that you have made us to feel good when we help others and show kindness. And we thank you that not only can that help us feel positive and good, it makes a difference in this world. Sometimes it's tough, sometimes it's difficult to help others that are in need, but we thank you that you give us that ability, and we thank you that you guide us in the way to happiness. Please be with each one here for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen.